A young woman forced to marry a stranger, a secret chest of life-changing letters, and one shocking decision on their wedding night that sparked a chain reaction across centuries. This isn't just a love story, it's a real-life mystery that's still unfolding today. Wait until you see the crazy proof we found. Don't click away because you might already be part of this story and not even know it. Before we dive into this unbelievable true story, hit that subscribe button and smash like, because this isn't just a tale, it's a life-changing lesson wrapped in mystery. Lightbulb wanna be part of spreading stories that actually matter? Share this with someone who needs hope today. Let's grow together. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson. Layla stood in the grand marble hallway of the Sheikh's palace, her heart pounding like a drum. She had agreed to this marriage to save her family from ruin. Her father's debts had piled high, and the Sheikh's offer was their only hope. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and rosewater, yet Layla felt a chill run down her spine. She smoothed the delicate fabric of her wedding gown, her fingers trembling. The palace was opulent, with towering arches and intricate mosaics, but it felt like a gilded cage. Servants moved silently, their faces unreadable, adding to her unease. She had never met the Sheikh before today. All she knew was that he was a man of great wealth and wisdom, decades older than her. The moment arrived. The heavy wooden doors of the bridal chamber creaked open. Layla stepped inside, her breath shallow. The room was dimly lit, candles flickering in silver holders. Silk curtains billowed in the evening breeze. At the far end of the room, the Sheikh sat in a high-backed chair, his posture regal yet relaxed. His silver beard glinted in the candlelight, and his eyes, deep knowing, met hers. Layla braced herself for the worst. But then the Sheikh did something unexpected. He stood slowly, his movements graceful despite his age. With a gentle smile, he extended his hand. "Come, child," he said, his voice like warm honey. Layla hesitated, then took a tentative step forward. The Sheikh's hand was surprisingly soft, his grip reassuring. "You are afraid," he observed, his eyes filled with kindness. Layla nodded, unable to speak. The Sheikh sighed deeply. "I did not bring you here to claim you as a wife," he said. Layla's eyes widened in confusion. The Sheikh gestured to a nearby table, where a stack of documents lay. "These are the deeds to your father's lands," he explained. "I have cleared his debts. You are free to go." Layla's knees nearly buckled beneath her. Tears welled in her eyes as the weight of his words sank in. "But why?" she whispered. The Sheikh's gaze grew distant, as if recalling a memory. "Once long ago I was young and in love," he said. "My beloved was taken from me by greed and cruelty." His voice trembled slightly. "I could not save her then. But I can save you now." Layla felt a surge of emotion. Gratitude, sorrow, awe. She fell to her knees, pressing her forehead to his hands. The Sheikh gently lifted her chin. "Rise, my child," he said. "Go home. Live a life of joy and love." Layla could not hold back her tears. She had expected a night of fear and duty. Instead, she found mercy beyond measure. The Sheikh called for his servants. "Prepare a carriage," he instructed. "See that she returns safely to her family." As Layla turned to leave, the Sheikh spoke one last time. "Remember this night," he said. "Kindness is the greatest wealth of all." The palace gates opened before her. The cool night air brushed against her face like a blessing. Layla climbed into the carriage, her heart lighter than it had been in years. She looked back once, at the man who had given her freedom. The Sheikh stood at the window, watching her go. His figure grew smaller in the distance, but his kindness would remain with her forever. And so, the night that began with fear ended with a lesson in love. A lesson she would carry in her heart always. For in a world of pain and hardship, there were still souls who shone like stars. Souls who understood suffering. Souls who chose to heal, not harm. And that made all the difference. The carriage rolled through the quiet streets, the rhythmic clatter of hooves against cobblestone the only sound breaking the night silence. Layla clutched the folded deeds in her lap, her fingers tracing the embossed seals as if to confirm they were real. Her mind raced with disbelief. She had prepared herself for sacrifice, for a life bound to a stranger. Instead, she had been given back her future. The city lights faded behind her as the carriage entered the countryside, the scent of earth and wildflowers replacing the perfumed air of the palace. Her village came into view, its humble homes bathed in moonlight. Her family's small house stood at the edge, its thatched roof sagging but familiar. Her heart swelled. The carriage stopped. Before she could step out, the door flew open. Her mother stood there, eyes wide with shock. Behind her, her father's face was pale with dread. Had the marriage been refused? Had they lost everything? Then Layla held up the deeds. Her mother gasped. Her father staggered forward, his hands shaking as he took the papers. His voice cracked as he read the words, "Cleared, free, no more debt." Tears streamed down his face. He looked at his daughter, his expression a storm of guilt and relief. "How?" he whispered. Layla smiled through her own tears. "A kind man," she said softly. That night, the family sat together by the hearth. The weight of years of fear finally lifted. Layla told them everything. The grand palace, the gentle Sheikh, his unexpected mercy. Her father bowed his head in shame. "I would have let you suffer for my mistakes," he murmured. Layla reached for his hand. "But I did not," she said firmly. "And now we begin again." The days that followed were filled with a quiet joy. The land was theirs once more. Neighbors who had turned away in their hardship now returned with offerings of bread and honey. Yet Layla could not forget the Sheikh. His sorrowful eyes. The way he had called her child. One morning she made a decision. She packed a basket with fresh bread, ripe figs, and a jar of her mother's rose syrup. Then she walked the long road back to the palace. The guards recognized her and let her pass without question. She found the Sheikh in his garden, sitting beneath an ancient olive tree, reading. When he saw her, his eyebrows rose in surprise. "Layla," he said warmly. She knelt before him and placed the basket at his feet. "I brought gifts," she said. "A small thanks for your great kindness." The Sheikh's eyes softened. He gestured for her to sit beside him. "You owe me nothing," he said. Layla shook her head. "I do not come from obligation," she replied. "I come because I wish to know you." The Sheikh studied her for a long moment. Then slowly he began to speak. He told her of his youth, of the love he had lost to war and greed, of how he had spent decades building his wealth, not for power, but to protect others from suffering as he had. Layla listened, her heart aching for the pain behind his wisdom. When he finished, she reached for his hand. "Let me visit you," she said. "Let me bring you stories, laughter, company." The Sheikh's eyes glistened. "You would do this?" he asked. Layla nodded. "Yes," she said simply. And so, a new bond was formed. Not of marriage but of something deeper, family. Layla returned every week, bringing news of the village, sweets from her mother, and sometimes even her younger siblings, who clambered onto the Sheikh's lap as if he had always been their grandfather. The palace, once a place of dread, became a second home. Years passed. The Sheikh grew frail, but his spirit remained bright. On his final evening, he summoned Layla to his side. His voice was weak, but his gaze was clear. "You gave an old man joy in his last years," he whispered. Layla pressed his hand to her cheek. "And you gave me back my life," she replied. When he closed his eyes for the last time, it was not in loneliness, but surrounded by those who loved him. In his will, he left Layla a single chest. Inside she found not gold but letters, hundreds of them. Notes from people whose lives he had quietly changed. Farmers whose debts he erased. Orphans he had clothed and fed. Families kept whole by his unseen hand. At the very bottom lay a single sheet of parchment, addressed to her. "Layla, my dear child, The greatest wealth is not in gold, but in the hearts we touch. You taught me that. Now go and live as you have let me live, with kindness. Farewell." Tears spilled onto the page. She would honor him, not with mourning but with action. She gathered the letters and walked into the village square. One by one she read them aloud. And as the people listened, something remarkable happened. They began to share their own stories. A baker offered bread to a hungry child. A farmer gave a portion of his harvest to a struggling neighbor. The Sheikh's kindness had not ended with his life. It had only just begun. And Layla, she became the keeper of his legacy. Not in a palace, but in the hearts of those she helped. For true love never dies. Only grows. Years turned like the pages of a well-loved book, each chapter richer than the last. Layla, now a woman of grace and wisdom, transformed her humble home into a sanctuary for the broken-hearted. The chest of letters became her guiding light. She sought out every person the Sheikh had helped, ensuring their stories were never forgotten. One rainy evening, as she mended clothes by the fire, a timid knock sounded at her door. A young woman stood shivering on her threshold, clutching a crying infant to her chest. Her eyes held the same fear Layla once knew. Without a word, Layla brought them inside, wrapping them in warm blankets and pressing hot tea into the woman's shaking hands. The story spilled out. A cruel husband, a midnight escape, nowhere to go. Layla recognized the desperation. She smiled gently and whispered, "Stay." That night, as the storm raged outside, the child slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. The young mother wept into Layla's shoulder, her tears soaking into the fabric of her robe. Layla stroked her hair, humming an old lullaby the Sheikh had once sung to her. Word spread. Soon, her home became a refuge, a place where widows, orphans, and the lost found shelter. The villagers began calling it the House of Second Chances. One morning, an elderly traveler arrived, leaning heavily on a cane. His face was weathered, but his eyes sparkled with mischief. He placed a worn leather bag on her table with a thud. "For the children," he rasped. Inside were toys. Hand-carved camels, wooden tops, and a delicate music box that played a tune Layla knew too well. It was the same melody the Sheikh used to hum. Her breath caught. "Who are you?" she asked. The old man chuckled. "Once, I was a servant in the palace. Now, just a man repaying a debt." He refused to say more, but from that day forward, gifts arrived. Blankets, books, coins tucked anonymously beneath her door. The Sheikh's legacy lived in the quiet generosity of strangers. Seasons changed. Layla's dark hair silvered, but her hands never stilled. Always mending, always holding, always giving. On the anniversary of the Sheikh's passing, the village gathered in the square. They lit lanterns, each flame representing a life he had touched. Hundreds flickered in the dusk, casting golden light on faces young and old. Layla stood before them, her voice steady. "Kindness is a seed," she said. "Plant it with your hands, and it will grow forests you'll never see." A child tugged her sleeve. Did the Sheikh know his forest would be this big? Layla looked at the sea of light before her. "No, little one," she whispered. "But that's the magic of love. It outlives us all." And as the stars emerged overhead, the lanterns rose together, carrying their gratitude into the endless sky. The floating lanterns. The glowing lights drifted upward like fireflies, each one carrying a name. A mother who could now feed her children, a farmer who kept his land, an orphan who found a home. Layla watched them rise, her heart full but aching. How she wished the Sheikh could see this. A warm breeze stirred, though the night was still. The lanterns, which had begun to scatter, suddenly swirled together in a great golden spiral. Gasps rippled through the crowd. For a fleeting moment, the lights formed the shape of a man's smiling face. The old servant from the palace fell to his knees, tears cutting through the wrinkles on his face. "Master!" he breathed. Then the wind sighed, and the lanterns dispersed, dancing toward the stars. No one spoke. No one needed to. The ripple. The next morning, A merchant from a distant city arrived in the village. He had seen the lanterns from the road and followed them like a beacon. In his cart were bolts of fine cloth, sacks of seed, and a sealed letter addressed to the keeper of the chest. Layla's fingers trembled as she broke the wax seal. The message was brief. 20 years ago, a stranger paid my father's debts. Last night I saw your lights. Tell me how to honor him. Layla smiled and handed the man a wooden top from the old servant's bag. Start small, she said. But start today. The unbroken chain. Decades later, when Layla took her last breath, it was not sorrow that filled the room, but the scent of jasmine. The village children, now grown with children of their own, washed her body in rosewater and buried her beneath the Sheikh's olive tree. That night, lanterns appeared across the kingdom. Not just in her village, but in cities she'd never visited, lit by hands she'd never touched. And if you listen closely when the wind blows just right, some say you can still hear it. The echo of a lullaby. Two voices, one young, one old, singing kindness into the dark. And somewhere, even now, another lantern is being lit. Another heart is learning. Love never ends. It only changes hands. The lantern maker's daughter. Years later, a little girl in a faraway city pressed her nose against a frosty windowpane, watching the first snowflakes fall. Papa, she asked, why do we light lanterns on the coldest night of winter? Her father, a bent-backed artisan with glue-stained fingers, set down his delicate work. Ah, my star, he sighed, unrolling a brittle scroll with inked fingerprints at the corners. This story begins with a chest full of letters. The Whispering Scroll. The scroll contained secrets no book dared write. How the Sheikh's kindness had crossed oceans when a shipwrecked sailor used his last coin to save a drowning child. How that child grew up to be the physician who cured the fever ravaging a mountain village. How that village carved lanterns from fallen trees every winter, each groove telling part of the story. The girl traced the scroll's faded illustrations with wonderstruck fingers. But Papa, she interrupted, what does this have to do with us? The glue-stained revelation. Her father lifted their oldest lantern from its hook, a delicate thing of mulberry paper and willow twigs, with strange, beautiful writing along the base. Because, he whispered, turning it to reveal the Arabic inscription Layla had taught her villagers to carve, no act of love is ever wasted. The glue on his fingers, she realized with a gasp, was the same kind used to mend the scroll. The same kind mentioned in the chest's letters. The 100th name. That winter solstice, when the girl lit her lantern, she added something new. A tiny silk pouch containing seeds from the Sheikh's ancestral olive trees, smuggled across borders by generations of storytellers. As the lantern rose, the wind carried it farther than any before. It landed softly in the arms of a refugee child huddled in a war-torn land. When the boy planted the seeds in the ashes of his home, the first leaves unfurled with a whisper. You are not alone. And so it goes. The chest never filled. The letters never stopped. The lanterns still rise. Some say if you leave your window open on the right night, you might catch one. Not with your hands but with your heart. For this is no longer just Layla's story. Or the Sheikh's. It belongs to the baker who leaves extra bread. To the teacher who buys quiet students' books. To you reading this now. The question isn't whether you'll carry the light. But how? The seed keeper. In a bustling modern city where skyscrapers blocked the stars, a tired barista named Amir wiped coffee grounds from his apron. On his break, he scrolled past a viral post, a photo of ancient olive leaves with strange, beautiful writing. Something prickled at his memory. His grandmother's trembling hands pressing a dried leaf into his passport when he emigrated. For luck, she'd said. That night, Amir rummaged through old boxes until, pressed between Quran pages, a brittle leaf with faint markings matching the viral image. The cafe revelation. Next morning, Amir pinned the leaf beside the espresso machine. A customer gasped. An archaeology professor. Do you know what this is? She breathed. This is from the original kindness trees, genetically unique olives that grew from Sheikh's seeds. There are only 17 left in the world. Amir's hands shook as he made her coffee. When she tried to pay, he shook his head. Today it's free. The ripple in the machine. The professor returned with a sapling. Graft from the last surviving tree, she said. It belongs with you. Amir planted it in a recycled milk jug on his tiny balcony. Months later, a food blogger photographed his latte art with history. A perfect olive leaf design. The post went viral with #TheKindnessTree hashtag. The unexpected gardener. One rainy Tuesday, a teenage girl lingered after closing time. My dad used to tell me about those trees, she mumbled, tracing the framed leaf. Before the overdose. Without thinking, Amir broke off a tender shoot from the sapling. Take this, he said. Grows well in bad soil. Her tears watered the cutting right there on the counter. The modern chest. Amir started a notebook behind the counter. Not for orders but for stories. How the professor's graft revived an abandoned community garden. How the teen grew her sapling in an old methadone bottle before transplanting it to rehab center grounds. How someone left a packet of 200-year-old seeds from the Sheikh's homeland with a note. Time to come home. The new lanterns. Now, every winter solstice, Amir's cafe stays open late. Customers fold coffee sleeves into tiny boats, each holding an olive pit and LED tea light. At midnight, they launch them down the city's polluted river, watching until the current carries the flickering fleet past the bend, where the water somehow, always, clears, and you check your pockets, your grandmother's jewelry box, that random seed stuck to your shoe. You might be holding the next chapter, and not even know it. The Library of Lost Seeds. The river of light boats washed ashore miles downstream, where a storm drain spat them into a community garden. A child plucked one from the mud, cracking open the damp coffee sleeve to find, not an olive pit, but a tiny brass key taped to a slip of paper with GPS coordinates. The underground greenhouse. The coordinates led to an abandoned subway tunnel beneath the city, where Amir's professor friend had secretly restored a 19th-century seed vault. Rows of glass cabinets glowed under grow lights, each holding heirloom seeds and a handwritten story. The key opened cabinet number 17. Inside, a pressed olive leaf from the Sheikh's original tree. A 200-year-old love letter from Layla to the palace servants. And one viable seed, nestled in silk. The ghost orchard. Urban explorers began accidentally finding the greenhouse. They'd leave with pockets full of seeds and instructions. Plant where kindness is needed most. Soon saplings sprouted in prison courtyards, refugee camp borders, the median strip between rival gang territories. Each tree bore strange fruit. Olives with faint markings that, when held to light, revealed fragments of the old letters. The living archive. A tech billionaire offered millions for the seed vault. The professor refused, then watched in awe as he bought the entire block. To protect it. Funny thing, he admitted, showing her his wrist tattoo of a floating lantern. My great-great-grandfather was the sailor that shipwrecked. The next page. Tonight if you walk past that garden, look closer at the new mural. That's not paint. It's composted coffee grounds and crushed olive pits. Touch it. Some say the warmth you feel isn't from the sun. It's from all the hands that carried these stories before yours. And the most incredible part. This isn't even the only seed vault. There are others. Waiting. For you. The Silent Symphony. On the 100th anniversary of the Sheikh's passing, a music teacher in Lisbon received a battered violin case with no return address. Inside, nestled next to the instrument, lay a sprig of olive leaves tied with embroidery thread. A faded photograph of Layla singing to children. Sheet music titled The Kindness Fugue. When played, the composition contained a strange harmonic, a frequency that made nearby plants grow at triple speed. The Botanical Choir. The teacher taught the piece to her students, who performed in hospitals. Nurses reported. The ivy on the walls started blooming during the adagio. Premature babies stabilized when the violins played the Layla motif. Soon, scientists discovered the music's secret. The composition was a sonic translation of the olive leaf's cellular structure. The underground network. Meanwhile, subway workers in Buenos Aires stumbled upon a cavern where roots from distant trees had intertwined to form perfect musical staff lines. When tapped, they played a lullaby from the Sheikh's homeland. The exact rhythm of Layla's footsteps as she carried the chest. The heartbeat pattern of Amir's grafted sapling. The global chorus. On the next winter solstice, Tokyo subway buskers played the fugue on shamisen. Nairobi street children drummed the rhythm on recycled cans. A Mars rover's solar panels vibrated with the melody. Someone had hacked NASA. Back in the original village, now a bustling town, the oldest living descendant of Layla's neighbors stood beneath the original kindness tree. At precisely midnight GMT, she pressed a hand to its bark, and the whole world felt the pulse. Your instrument. Check your attic. That weird hum your appliances make at 3 a.m. The way your plants lean toward that one song. You're already part of the symphony. The only question left. What note will you add? The note that changed everything. In a small coastal town in Norway, a deaf woodcarver named Ellen felt the vibrations of the global chorus through her workbench. Her chisel began moving almost on its own, guided by the resonance, carving intricate patterns into a piece of driftwood from the Sheikh's ancestral homeland. When finished, the carving depicted Layla's face formed from musical notes. The Sheikh's hands shaped like olive branches. And at the bottom, a single word in Braille. Listen. The unexpected messenger. A storm washed the carving out to sea, where it traveled for months before washing ashore in Somalia. A blind fisherman's daughter found it, her fingers tracing the Braille instinctively. That's impossible, her father whispered. You don't know Braille. The girl blinked. But the wood sang it to me. The living instrument. Doctors discovered the driftwood contained a rare lichen that responds to sound waves. Iron particles aligned in perfect musical scales. And something science couldn't explain, what the fishermen called the old kindness. When placed in seawater, the carving emitted a perfect middle C, the same note as the kindness tree's leaves rustling in the original palace garden. The world responds. Soon people began discovering Tibetan singing bowls that played the fugue when placed on tree stumps. Australian didgeridoos that produced olive-scented air when played correctly. A street piano in Detroit that grew actual olives from its soundboard. The final revelation. On the anniversary of the blind girl's discovery, scientists made an astonishing find. The driftwood carving wasn't just reacting to the global chorus. It was conducting it. Every act of kindness since the Sheikh's first gift had been weaving an invisible symphony, and the carving was the baton. Your part in the music. That itch when you help a stranger. The warmth when you forgive someone. That's your heartbeat syncing with the kindness fugue. The orchestra has no audience, only participants. The last secret. The original olive tree in the palace garden never died. Its roots just grew too deep for anyone to see. Like kindness, like love, like this story that somehow keeps going. Every time. Choose. Pass it on. On the 150th anniversary of the Sheikh's passing, the world fell silent for one extraordinary minute. Not in mourning but in listening. People from every culture stood beneath olive trees, by subway greenhouses, in hospital gardens, and simply breathed. And in that quiet they heard it. A faint, perfect harmony rising from the earth itself. It wasn't just the trees singing. It was everyone who had ever carried the story forward. Their choices, their kindnesses, woven into a living melody. The last letter. That same day, an archivist in Cairo unsealed a forgotten compartment in the original chest. Inside lay one final parchment. If you are hearing this, the work is done. Not because kindness has ended, but because it no longer needs my name. It has become like air, invisible, essential, belonging to all. Plant no more lanterns. Write no more letters. Simply live, and let the music continue itself. The final lantern. That night, a single light floated over the original village. Not paper. Not fire. A swarm of bioluminescent bees, their wings humming the kindness fugue as they pollinated the ancient olive grove. Where the story lives now. In the way a stranger's laugh makes you smile without thinking. In the instinct to return a lost wallet. In the quiet courage to try again tomorrow. The names may fade, Sheikh, Layla, Amir, the others, but the melody remains. The last line. Look at your hands. They already know what to do next.